Welcome back to The Explainer. Today we are diving into the life and legacy of someone who is, without a doubt, a monumental figure not just in Pakistan's history, but really in world history. We're talking about Abdul Sattar Edhi. This is a guy who literally dedicated every waking moment of his existence to serving humanity. He wasn't just your average social worker, he became this absolute beacon of hope for millions of destitute, helpless people. We're going to unpack exactly how his life became the ultimate masterclass in simplicity, compassion, and just unwavering service to others. His name still commands immense respect globally, and trust me, by the end of this, you are going to see exactly why his level of dedication is so incredibly rare.
So right off the bat, think about this paradox for a second. On one hand, you have a man who eventually commanded a billion-rupee global welfare empire. He ran the world's largest volunteer ambulance network. Massive scale, right? But on the other hand, personally, he lived in a single, tiny room. He wore the most ordinary, simple clothes you could imagine. He kept his personal needs absolutely minimal and had zero desire for wealth or fame. I mean, how does a person with so much power and so many resources at his fingertips maintain that level of astonishing simplicity?
Part 1. A Mother's Lesson.
To really understand this, we have to rewind a bit. Edhi was born in 1928 in the city of Bantua in British India to a middle-class family. But the massive turning point happens in 1947. During the partition of the subcontinent, his family, like millions of others, was completely uprooted and migrated to Karachi, Pakistan. This newly formed country was going through unbelievable struggles. When Edhi got there, he saw severe poverty, unemployment, and disease just everywhere. Thousands of people were lying sick and hungry right on the streets. Nobody had money for treatment, and proper hospitals basically didn't exist for them. Seeing this profound suffering just broke his heart, and it was right then and there that he made the ultimate decision to spend his life helping people in pain.
And that actually brings us to the absolute core philosophy of his life: feel the pain of others. You see, his mother was this incredibly kind-hearted woman who was always helping the poor and the sick. From the time he was a little kid, she drilled this belief into him that serving humanity is the greatest thing a person can do. He always credited her for teaching him how to genuinely feel what other people were going through. It was that exact lesson, planted way back in his childhood, that grew into this relentless passion for helping humans.
Moving on to Part 2. The First Ambulance.
Okay, so how do you go from having absolutely zero resources to running a global empire of humanity? Well, you start small. He began by setting up this tiny free dispensary in Karachi to give out medicines to the poor. And I mean, he was doing everything. He collected the donations, he served the patients, he even swept and cleaned the floors himself. No big fancy building, no massive corporate funding, just pure love for humanity. Then, he takes this huge leap. He scrapes together enough to buy an old van and literally converts it into an ambulance himself. This actually became one of the very first welfare ambulance services in all of Pakistan.
But here is the crucial takeaway. This wasn't some guy sitting behind a desk managing a fleet. Edhi drove that ambulance himself. Whenever there was an accident or someone sick cried out for help, boom, he was there. He spent countless sleepless nights out on those streets just to make sure he could save a life. It was this intense physical labor, this pure unfiltered spirit of service, that really started to win over the hearts of the people.
Which leads us perfectly into Part 3. An Empire of Humanity.
What started as one guy sweeping a floor snowballed into the Edhi Foundation, which, crazy enough, became one of the largest welfare organizations in the world. I mean, the scale is staggering. They set up orphanages, giving homes to thousands of kids. They built hospitals for free treatment. They expanded the ambulances, set up massive free food networks known as Dasturkhan, and created shelters and homes for the elderly. It basically became this giant, comprehensive safety net for people who had absolutely nothing else to fall back on.
But honestly, perhaps the most profoundly moving part of his work was giving people dignity in death. Edhi took on the heavy, emotionally taxing job of burying unclaimed bodies. Think about that. There were so many individuals who died with absolutely no family, no friends. When they passed, Edhi would step up. He would wash their bodies and bury them with full respect. It's a job almost no one wants to do. But for him, every single human being deserved absolute respect, whether they were alive or dead.
Part 4. Beyond Religion and Borders.
If you remember one thing from this explainer, make it this iconic belief of his: humanity is the biggest religion. He completely elevated the value of human life way above any societal boundaries we put up. And this wasn't just some catchy PR slogan, right? It was the strict, non-negotiable rule for how he lived his life and ran his entire organization.
His help was completely blind to divisions.
The most special thing about Edhi was that he never once looked at a person's religion, their race, their language, or where they were born. Everyone was treated like family. Hindu, Muslim, Christian, it didn't matter. If you needed help, he supported you exactly like he would his own brother. It was this totally universal, impartial way of thinking that made him so uniquely respected across the entire globe.
Part 5. The Richest Poor Man.
Naturally, the world tried to shower him with global awards and international recognition for all of this. But you know what he actually valued? The quiet prayers and blessings of everyday people. Even with billions of rupees flowing through his foundation and all this international fame, he stayed incredibly humble. People literally called him the richest poor man in the world, not because of his bank account, which was basically empty, but because he was rich in the prayers of the people he saved. For him, if even one person found a little bit of peace because of his work, that was it. That was his ultimate success.
Finally, Part 6, An Everlasting Legacy.
On July 8, 2016, Abdul Sattar Edhi passed away. And his passing didn't just leave Pakistan in mourning, it sent a shockwave around the world. Millions paid their respects, and his state funeral was attended by just thousands upon thousands of people.
And this is the absolute best part of the story. His services didn't stop when he did. The ambulances, they're still running today. The children in the orphanages are still smiling. The Edhi Foundation is still out there, actively helping thousands of people every single day. The sound of those sirens and the prayers of the sick are a living, breathing reminder of his mission. His life is permanent proof that humanity is just so much greater than wealth or power. He really was the embodiment of what it means to be human. So I want to leave you with a question to chew on. His life is this amazing blueprint for the rest of us. It shows that if we just started looking out for each other, we could completely transform this world. Think about it. If Abdul Sattar Edhi, starting with literally nothing but a broom, an old beat-up van, and a lesson from his mom, could change the world, what is stopping us from helping others? Thanks for hanging out with me for this explainer. I hope you walk away as inspired by his story as I am. Keep learning and keep helping each other out. Catch you next time.